These scary stories will take you on a strange and fearsome journey, where darkness or fog, or mist, or the sound of a person screaming or a dog howling turns ordinary places into nightmarish ones, where nothing is what you expect. People have been telling scary stories for as long as anyone knows. From the first were tales of supernatural creatures that people feared would harm them, boogeymen, monsters, demons, ghosts, and evil spirits lurking in the dark, waiting for their chance to strike. We still tell scary stories about creatures we fear, but not all of them are about boogeymen and demons. Quite a few of them are about living people. You'll meet some of them. A fat and jolly butcher, a friendly girl who plays a drum, a neighbor, and others who, at best, are not to be trusted. Scary stories of this kind often have a serious purpose. They may warn young people of dangers that await them when they set out into the world on their own. But for the most part, we tell scary stories to have fun. We turn out the lights, or we leave just a candle burning. Then we sit close together and tell the scariest stories we know. Often these include some that have been passed down over hundreds of years. If a story is scary enough, your flesh begins to creep. You get a shivery, shaky, screamy feeling. You imagine hearing and seeing things that aren't there. You hold your breath as you wait to learn how it all happens. If something startling happens, everyone gasps, or jumps, or screams. Some people call these shivery, shaky, screamy feelings the heebie-jeebies, or the screaming memes. The poet T.S. Eliot called them the hoo-haws. If you're going to tell these stories, learn them in the light before it gets dark, while you're still feeling brave. Then, when the moon is up, tell them to your friends and relatives. You'll probably give them the hoo-haws, but they'll have fun. And so will you. Ellen had just fallen asleep when she heard a strange voice.
Ellen,
it whispered.
I am coming up the stairs. I am on the first step. Now I'm on the second step.
Ellen got scared and called for her parents, but they didn't hear her and they didn't come. Then the voice whispered,
Ellen, I'm on the top step. Now I'm in the hall. Now I'm outside your room.
Then it whispered,
I'm standing right next to your bed.
And then, I've got you! Ellen screamed, and the voice stopped. Her father rushed into the room and turned on the light. Somebody is in here, Ellen said. They looked and looked, but nobody was there. The house was near the beach. It was a big old place where nobody had lived for years, and from time to time somebody would force open a window or a door and spend the night there, but never any longer. 3 fishermen, caught in a storm, took shelter there one night. With some dry wood they found inside, they made a fire in the fireplace. They lay down on the floor and tried to get some sleep, but none of them slept that night. First, they heard footsteps upstairs. It sounded like there were several people moving back and forth, back and forth. When one of the fishermen called, "Who's up there?" the footsteps stopped. Then they heard a woman scream. The scream turned into a groan and died away. Blood began to drip from the ceiling into the room where the fishermen huddled. A small red pool formed on the floor and soaked into the wood. A door upstairs crashed shut, and again a woman screamed. "Not me!" she cried. It sounded as if she was running, her high heels tapping wildly down the hall. "I'll get you," a man shouted, and the floor shook as he chased her. And then silence. There wasn't a sound until the man who had shouted began to laugh. Long peals of horrible laughter filled the house. It went on and on until the fishermen thought they would go mad. When it finally stopped, the fishermen heard someone coming down the stairs and dragging something heavy that bumped on each step. They heard him drag it through the front hall and out the front door. The door opened, and then it slammed shut. Again, silence. Suddenly, a flash of lightning filled the house with a green blaze of light. A ghastly face stared at the fishermen from the hallway. Then came a crash of thunder. Terrified, they ran out into the storm. Leon and Todd loved baseball. When they were young, they had played on the town's baseball team. Leon had been the pitcher, and Todd had played second base. Now that they were a lot older, they spent their free time watching baseball games on TV and talking about baseball. "Do you think they play baseball in heaven?" Leon asked Todd one day. "That's a good question," said Todd. "The one who gets there first should let the other one know somehow." As it turned out, Todd got to heaven first, and Leon waited patiently to hear from him. One day, Leon found Todd sitting in the living room waiting for him. Leon was very excited to see him. "What is it like up there? And what about baseball?" he asked. "When it comes to baseball," said Todd, "I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is that we do play baseball in heaven. We have some fine teams. I play second base on my team, just like I used to in the old days. And that's the good news." "What's the bad news?" asked Leon. "The bad news," said Todd, "is that you are scheduled to pitch tomorrow." A woman came to the funeral parlor to see her husband's corpse. "You did a good job," she said to the undertaker. "He looks just the way he always looked, except for one thing. My husband always wore a brown suit, but you have him dressed in a blue suit." "That is no problem," said the undertaker. "We can easily change that." When she returned later, her husband was wearing a brown suit. "Now he looks just the way he always did," she said. "I know you went to a lot of trouble." "It was no trouble," he said. "As it happened, there was a man here wearing a brown suit, and his widow felt that blue would be better. He's about your husband's size, so we gave him the blue one and gave your husband the brown one." "Even so," she said, "changing all that clothing was a big job." "Not really," said the undertaker. "All we did was exchange their heads."